Hey all, it's Nim or Nimicree if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today we're going to be talking about upcoming class tuning. As you know, there's going to be a raid next week. Let's talk about what happened, why it's important, and more importantly, why I think it's wrong. Without further ado, let's get started. Now we've all been there. A magical time. It's the beginning of an expansion. Raid's not out. Mythic Plus isn't out. We don't know what's gonna happen yet. So it doesn't really make sense to tune on a very temporary basis. Because in 5 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, eventually no days, it'll be the start of the first season when Raid opens up and when your infinitely scalable PvE content opens up. That's what you should balance for. So, in a move that I think isn't a great move by the devs, upcoming class tuning is incoming on the weekly reset global tank nerfs. Now, listen, I don't play a tank right now. I've played a tank in the past. I'll probably play a tank in the future. Right now I'm playing a healer. I didn't have to worry so much about my tanks because they were very strong. But then again, I also ran with some guild tanks who, when there was fire on the ground, they would move out of it. Or when there was acid on the ground, they would move out of it. Or if they got targeted with something they needed to move with, they would take it somewhere away from the group. They'd spin the boss. I'm fortunate in the fact that normally when I play with a guild group. We're on comms, I can get everything done. So that just leaves me to protect my little group of murder hobo cats. The DPS. Now, when I first did the Mythic Zeros, I would watch some DPS go from 40 to 0 during a global. That did not feel good. That being said, we were probably a little undergeared for the Mythic Zero, and people were taking avoidable damage and not using defensives. People were still thinking, oh, this is Shadowlands Seasons 4. It's like, no. We're in Dragonflight pre-season, so I understand a little bit, but the point is that this god status of tanking that Blizzard seems to think tanks have, will go away in like 3 days. It's not a big deal. And by the time you watch this, probably less than 3 days. So as we scroll through here, we can see that Blizzard has announced upcoming class tuning, which includes nerfs to all tanks and Havoc Demon Hunters. So, Blizzard, with the launch of Dragonflight Season 1, we're making some tuning adjustments to classes during the scheduled weekly maintenance on December 13th. Okay? So, for the tank specializations, and I want to read this quote exactly because there are things I'm probably going to have to rebut. We've been taking a long look at tank survivability as we prepare for the beginning of Dragonflight Season 1. In general, we found the new talent trees have introduced a lot of power across all classes and specializations. That's debatable, but okay. Talents that were once exclusive through systems like Talent Rows, Legendaries, and Covenants can now be equipped at the same time. Through our recent testing, we've determined that damage done to tanks needs to be increased. While we're thrilled players are enjoying tanks in Dragonflight, and we want the role to be healthy, there are some negative effects that can come from tanks being too strong that we want to avoid. We want healers to play a key role in keeping tanks alive, and tanks shouldn't be able to easily solo large portions of encounters after the rest of the group have died. We're adjusting the damage reduction passives on all tanks, effectively increasing the damage tanks take by 10%. We think tanks will still feel powerful after this change, and will result in a more balanced gameplay experience for all players. Okay, so before we go into specific, let's say, changes. Let's talk about that, right? So tanks, by their definition, are designed to be survivable. That's their whole thing, right? Damage, heals. Anything else they can do outside of that, bonus. Tanks, as an additional, let's say, responsibility, tend to control the pace of the fight. Your good tank will AoE your mobs, group them up, and that way they all stay in a nice little death ball that your DPS can be like, well, thank you, tank, and start nuking them down. And since everyone's in, let's say a reasonably close area, your healer, myself in this case, can be like, oh, hey, look, we're gonna boop, 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 keep everybody alive, we're great, we're fantastic, let's roll, and we move on to the next pack. And that's that little description is a microcosm. Oh, that's a hard word to say. Microcosm? Yeah, it's microcosm. Of everything that happens in World of Warcraft in a PvE scenario. Tank holds, DPS kills, heals make sure the group of murder hobo cats are alive. Tanks feel overpowered right now because of two reasons. One, they can get gear that is incredibly higher level than what they're supposed to. There are some tanks that are rolling at 380, 381, 382. Why? Because due to a quirk of the reward system, leveling increases and things like that, and rep grinding, you can get things that are much higher than the Mythic 0 reward. So if you could just stop at Mythic 0, it wouldn't be near as bad. Like, oh, okay, that's that. But there are tanks to get, you have 389 ring, 389 cloak. You can get some crafted stuff. So if you're absolutely minted and wanna really come into, pre-raid, pre-Mythic Plus, BIS, yeah, you're gonna and you're a good tank, because that's the other part of this. You're gonna face roll this. So when I say a good tank, I don't mean somebody who's just, okay, I'm just gonna pick up a shield, or pick up that two-handed sword for Blood Knight or Death Knight in Blood Spec. I was looking at that, so Death Knight and Blood and Transpose. The point is that if you are a skilled player, you will know how to pilot your class to its best possible ability. Combine that with high gear score, item level, you're gonna do well. It's only natural that we see this artifact of, wow, why can this tank solo 40% of a boss? Well, because it's a Blood Death Knight who knows what they're doing and is decently geared. And we got through the dangerous phase where everybody died, except for the tank. So now it's just a burn phase. Now it's just one player worrying about themselves as opposed to anything else. They don't have to worry about positioning. They just have to worry about themselves. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This will solve itself in time with scaling. This will absolutely solve itself. Now, I will say that I did see something on Twitter saying kite meta is back, and it seems like that's probably going to be true. So let's look at the actual specifics here. Death Knight. Blood Fortification no longer reduces damage taken. Was a 10% reduction. Demon Hunter. Demonic Wards rank 1 and 2. Passes have been removed, reducing Demonic Wards total damage reduction to 10%. Was 20. Guardian. Ursine Adept no longer reduces damage taken. Was a 10% damage reduction. Brewmaster. Brewmaster's Balance no longer reduces damage taken. Was a 10% damage reduction. Paladin. Aegis of Light no longer reduces damage taken. Was 10% damage reduction. Warrior. Vanguard no longer reduces damage taken. Was 5%. Defensive Stance now reduces damage taken by 15. Was 20. Damage reduction remains unchanged at 10% effectiveness in PvP. Okay. I don't do PvP. I don't really care what you do with PvP. I hope it's balanced, and I hope the PvP players enjoy that. Let somebody who has more expertise on PvP talk about PvP. I don't. I do PvE. It's what I like to do. So again, pretty significant nerf across the board. Just 10% to tank survivability, and that's its main role. I did see something earlier about a threat buff, so that'll be something useful, but I don't know if that's intended. Let's say I don't know. I don't know if that's intended, but we'll figure that out as we go through this. And then, of course, with damage specializations, a number of changes below are targeted at reducing the passive healing provided by several DPS specs. While some amount of passive healing can be a perk to some specializations, we think these particular abilities are providing too much benefit, particularly compared to more active options. So, the Demon Hunter. The Hunt now heals for 10 and 20 as Havoc and Vengeance of damage dealt to marked target for 20 seconds was 2550 for 30. Charred Warblade now heals for 3% from fire damage was 5. Fixed an issue that unintentionally permitted fodder to the flame effects to heal effect to crit. Havoc Essence breaks damage has been reduced by 8%. Okay. Priest. For Shadow, Vampiric Touch healing is reduced to 30, was 50. Devouring Plague healing reduced to 30, was 50. Look, you've been rough with the Shadow Priest. Do you really have to do that? Hashtag Rogue. Leeching Poisons, leech bonus reduced to 5, was 10. Poison Bomb chance trigger a 4-8% combo, is reduced from 5-10. Outlaw Dispatch damage has been increased by 5, and Pistol Shots damage has been reduced by 6. Okay, then that happens. Subtlety, Black Powder damage reduced by 5%. Fixed a bug that caused Secret Technique to interact incorrectly with Cold Blood. You have Warlock. Fell Synergy now causes Soul Leech to heal you 15% of the absorption it grants, was 25. Soul Leech now grants shields up to 5% of maximum health, was 10. Demon Skin now increases Soul Leech absorption up to 10% of maximum health, was 15. And of course, Warrior. Gushing Wounds damage and healing was reduced by 10%. Bloodthirst damage increased by 1%. Bloodbath damage increased by 1%. Okay, and it says here, developers notes down there, that Bloodthirst and bloodbath damage have been increased to compensate for the gushing wounds damage reduction. Okay, yeah, some there. That's fine. And then I'm not really worried about player versus player. That's not something I'm gonna necessarily worry about. Okay, so here's time. We've gone over the changes, right? The changes are fine. They're fine. I mean, they're happening regardless. I don't think they're a good thing, but they're gonna happen. Now, here's what I think is actually going to happen. These changes were done right before the race to World First, right? It's an 8-boss raid. I think that Blizzard thinks the race to World First is going to be a little shorter than what they would like. So, well, what's one way to make it last longer is to nerf the survivability of your tanks. Okay, yeah, that can do it. So I think that there will be some buffs coming to tanks after the race to World First. I'm interested in that. I think, you know, if we're going into conspiracy territory, I think there's going to be some buffs. And I'm not going to be mad about that. I just think that this problem right now, if they had left it alone, would be fine. Because eventually, you're going to scale and scale and scale and scale and scale through Mythic Plus. You're going to do harder content with raids, you know, your normal raids, your heroic raids, your Mythic raids. And heck, even LFR, right? Even LFR with all of its stuff and having, you know, a couple players carry the whole LFR, because sometimes people just don't care, and that's fine. It's LFR. You don't expect people to care in LFR, so it's not a big deal. This problem would solve itself. I do want to take one last thing here, though, before we wrap up the video. When it comes to the trees giving a lot of power, you know, I'm critical of the class trees. I didn't think they did enough. I still think I feel that way, at least playing as a priest. Now, maybe if I play another class, I might have a different mind, but I'm still not a big fan of the class trees. But hey, still playing Dragonflight, having a fun time. Doesn't really bother me all that much. So this could be, you know, the tallest kid in kindergarten, so to speak. It's not really that big a problem. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Am I on point about the class tuning? Are you agreeing with me with the whole conspiracy theory about, ooh, they're gonna buff him again? Or do you think I'm completely off base and be like, damn, you're crazy? Anything can be there. If you enjoyed the video, or you like what I did in particular, go on and hit subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with everything the channel does. Additionally, you can find me on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We play a lot of World of Warcraft, and occasionally we'll throw in a Souls game or some type of RPG. We've been doing a little bit of Mass Effect recently, and let me tell you, I like Mass Effect. Forgot how good that game was. Finally, for those who wish to parse above and beyond the Call of Duty, those rank 1 parsers, those legends, those champions, there is the Patreon, and that's patreon.com/Nimicry. You can get various rewards and a few extra little unlockable content things. So check that out again at patreon.com/Nimicry. This was a fun video to make, despite the fact that there are nerfs coming. I hate to see my tank brethren, sistren, and those that lie betwixt being nerfed. So that's that. But sadly, this is the world we live in, not the world we wish we lived in. So may the mount you're farming drop on the first kill, and I'll see you in the next video.